Joining us now, Congressman, Republican 7th District of Virginia. That's the Central Virginia area. Congressman Dr. Dave Brat. Dr. Brat, happy Father's Day. Good to have you.
Hey, thanks so much, John. Great to be on.
Now, your kids are getting older, right? When are you and Laura going to be emptying Hester's? Soon, right?
We got a few more years left. Yeah, we got one in college and one in high school. So we're getting there.
And your son's in college, right?
Yep.
And your daughter's in high school, and is she a sophomore?
Yep, rising sophomore.
Rising sophomore. So you got a little bit of time, right? I've still got.
No, we're enjoying them. My wife's gonna have to find more people to cook for when they leave the nest.
Yeah, it always happens that way. Then you put on weight, right? So you got to be careful about that.
That's right.
That's what happened to me. The two older ones are gone. I immediately put on weight, especially with my older guy gone, because he would eat all the leftovers, and then I was stuck with him. But
That's
we
right.
have
Plus, he's my guy is my sports partner in a lot of stuff. So if he's gone, the waste goes out too.
Yeah, you know how that goes. All right, so this just in, according to the newspaper, The Hill, alarmed by the stalemate on health care reform, lack of progress on tax reform, and appropriations bills that are far behind schedule, Republican lawmakers across Congress are increasingly willing to consider canceling the month-long August recess. Now, this is music to Rob Whitman's ears. Your colleague has been calling for this for some time. What do you make of this? Are you willing to give up your August recess to try to get something done?
Well, yeah. I mean, the country is just imploding all around, right? I mean, Obamacare's imploding, foreign policy's imploding, business is growing at zero. Education, we're starting to finally have, with a businessman in the White House, real emphasis on kids learning about business and workforce skills. But we haven't put any of it through yet. And so, yeah, we got $1 trillion on a health care bill in the Senate that the Senate is saying we don't have the votes for, right? And so the House is doing its work. I mean, the Senate definitely needs to stay in with us. But, yeah, we need to stay in and do our work.
All right, so you would be in favor of just staying there and trying to get this stuff done, because we think eventually the Senate has to pass something on Obamacare, and then you've got to reconcile it. You still got a budget resolution you got to deal with. You've got Trump's tax reform agenda. That's going nowhere. So, I mean, it's kind of like, for laymen out there, Congressman, it's kind of tough to see you guys go back. You can understand that if you're going back to campaign, everybody gets that, midterms. But to go back to have a recess when nothing's done, I don't think it's a good idea.
No, that's right. Yeah, the Freedom Caucus, I don't know what you knew, put out a formal position to leave, a month ago, to not leave.
Mm-hmm.
We said, we got $1 trillion on the health care bill. The border adjustable is $1 trillion. If we don't have that, we got to come up with somewhere. So we have major moves. People are debating the budget like it's about, $50 billion over the defense markup. And it's not about $50 billion. $1 trillion and then $1 trillion, that's 2,000 billion, right? Those are the numbers that the press isn't reporting. I don't know why. I go out to them every day and I tell them that. I don't know why you won't report. The debate is over 2,000 billion.
Right.
It's not over the little budget, 50 billion. But they just like kind of the inside poker kind of stuff.
Okay, we've got a lot to go over, Congressman. So hang in there. It's going to be kind of rapid fire today. Okay, let's start with President Trump Friday going to Little Havana in Miami and basically ripping up by the roots Obama's policy on lifting the sanctions for Cuba, travel ban back in, the export and import ban back on. Is it a good move or a bad move, and why?
Yeah, it's a good move, and I don't know how anyone debates it. I mean, his basic thesis is the bad deal was bad because it was made with the elites and the power brokers in Cuba. The New Deal emphasizes relationships between our business class and their people, right, and their business people, not the government and the cronies. And so the last deal propped up the central government. And, that President Obama is not opposed to a giant federal government. Well, our party is. We don't think that is best ever for the people in the long run. And so, in brief, it's pretty simple, right? We want a new deal that's business-friendly towards the Cuban people.
So the Chamber of Commerce not happy with this. A lot of people wanted to travel there. They're not happy, but you think that the president did the right thing?
Yeah, that people can still travel there. The chamber likes big government deals, right? So it's no shocker there, right? People can still travel. You can still do business, but you can't do business with a monopoly regime.
Right.
And it's a good move. That'll incentivize the right type of business, which is small transactions between a lot of small businesses. That's the way you want to roll.
It's also the president delivering on another campaign promise, because he promised specifically that he would reverse Obama's position on Cuba and Havana. So he followed through on that. Okay, under the radar screen, Congressman, with all this going on, and we're going to talk about the shooting and everything, with all this going on under the radar screen, last week, the president gives authority to General Mattis, his Secretary of Defense, to set the troop level in Afghanistan. Mattis turns around and orders another 4,000 troops in Afghanistan. Now, we've been there since 2001. All we have to show for it, let's see, body bags, are men and women dead, without arms and legs in wheelchairs. We've been there for 17 years. We've accomplished nothing. Now, last week, another Taliban, ISIS, Al-Qaeda member infiltrates the Afghan armed services and starts shooting at us, killing people. No AUMF, no request from Congress. Trump campaigned on getting us out of these Middle Eastern wars. Why does Congress just stand around and let this happen? And why do you absolve your authority vested in the Constitution? Because only Congress can authorize troops invading another country, not General Mattis. What's the deal here, Dave?
Yeah, well, you got it right. There's a new movie out, the Brad Pitt movie called War Machine. That's just a cynical take on Afghanistan, but it's got a lot of it right when it comes to nation building. And so the real problem with the Mattis authority is I kind of like the generals having the authority to fight wars, once we do an AUMF, but the problem here is there's no mission that's been spelled out, right? The strategy is not spelled out. And so the only argument for troops in Afghanistan is just to have a force present so that there cannot, so there's not a vacuum in the area where the ISIS and the radical forces can mobilize and build up a strength to pull off a 9/11. But the force going out and fighting and doing nation building and all that kind of thing, it's not productive. It alienates the enemy. It gets them fighting at us, and we're losing our young men and women, like you just said. And so, I think Congress is going to step up on this one. The reason we always abdicate is we don't want to set an AUMF, because then we're responsible for any bad outcome. And then you take a tough, bad political vote, and you're in trouble. And but that's our job, is to take the tough votes and to do the right thing. And so, but it's about that simple.
When are you simply going to demand that Speaker Ryan get this on the agenda so you're not passing the buck? And when are you guys, you're in a war that hasn't been declared. Go ahead and declare war and then send whatever troops you want and go into the well and hit the button that says, I'm going to vote for war. And then you have it. Then we all go in with it. But right now,
leadership, well, they're trying to, not take hard votes, not put seats at risk. You look at why in the world do we have a special prosecutor investigating our own side right now? We had Hillary Clinton, $2 billion in fundraising from foreign entities while she's Secretary of State, Attorney General meeting on the tarmac, and Comey saying she's basically guilty of felony charges in testimony. And no prosecutor there. And so our leadership just doesn't want to fight. And the American people are getting sick of it. We want to see justice done on both sides, right? And it's just unbelievable right now. Now, within a few months, a day after the election, some of the Democrats are calling for impeachment. You never saw Republicans call for impeachment of Obama, Republican congressmen and congresswomen. You never saw that.
Right.
And so there's just a double standard, and then the media is right on it, right? 95% of media donations went to Hillary. And so they're right on it, impeach Trump, and now you got the special prosecutor when there's no statute that's been violated. And I got Democrat friends out there I can't believe. I was talking at the farmers market over the weekend, and I had to explain to them. I said, look, there is some confusion on this, right? Russia does ping us, and we ping them constantly, right? So there's no doubt that's going on. They're interfering with our elections, this kind of thing. But that's issue number one. Issue number two is separate from that, and that's the idea that Trump colluded with the Russians, worked with the Russians. I mean, which is, just laughable in terms of, him sitting down with Putin strategizing to overtake a U.S. election. And so that there's no evidence there. Alan Dershowitz says there's no evidence. There's no statute. And then the Democrats just say, well, there might be. Right? So there's no there might be evidence against you, too. Do you want us to open up an investigation just because there might be? I mean, it's so that we're losing track of the standards that made us a great country.
Well, Dave, in my judgment, and I said this on CNN the other night, this isn't about, as Mark Warner says, Senator Warner, getting to the truth or getting to the bottom of it or finding the fire where there's smoke. This is a Soviet-style KGB inquisition to figure out how to remove this president from office and overturn the election. Because, as you pointed out, we have a special prosecutor without a crime. There is not a single shred of evidence that anybody did anything wrong that would lead to this. And now you got all these people being hired. You got the Washington Post dripping it out, leaking stuff, and it's all for political reasons. But you nailed it. Leadership in your party doesn't want to fight for anything, so they just stand idly by. It's unbelievable. Congressman, I want to get to the shooting on Tuesday, the horrible event that happened. No one there had a firearm. I mean, you have to take stock now and say, wow, I mean, people are at risk. Should congressmen be able to carry a firearm just to protect themselves?
Well, yeah, in light of what happened, I mean, we're all reassessing everything. And so I made it clear in the national press. I mean, when you got 5 or 10 congressmen and women meeting, you cannot have individuals, riding their bikes on the way to these kind of things, singularly, and meeting where, one crazy person knows what's going on. And they did. And the New York Times put it in the paper that we practice at so-and-so. I mean, so that's not intelligent on their part either. And so, yeah, we've got to be much more careful. And then, of course, if you say anything, there was a negative hit piece on me by Marcia Mercer in the RTD this week, Richmond Times-Dispatch, a piece saying that I said, we shouldn't have town halls and all that. She quoted Roll Call magazine up there. If you want to see how the left constructs falsehoods and just tells outright lies, compare what I said in Roll Call with how it was reported by Marcia Mercer. And so this is a day after my friends have been shot, and we're thinking through what to do, and then the left just cannot take a break, right? So, and my picture's sitting there for some reason in a national piece on this a day after we've been shot, and I'm basically saying, of course you have to recalibrate security. We just had a massive failure. We had a massive security failure. And thank God for our national Capitol Police. And at home, I got the greatest folks around, right? All my counties, the sheriff's, police, fire, first responders are incredible people. They put their life on the line for you. But we have to do a better job of letting them know, hey, we're going to be here. We got a few congressmen coming in here. We're going to be here. And it makes it very hard. And then the left and the media just hit you when you're trying to protect your own life. It's a pretty incredible time we live in.
If several of those congressmen carried firearms in their baseball bag by the dugout, would that have made a difference, Dave?
Oh, it would have been totally different. I mean, we were just waiting, right? We were waiting for the Capitol. They were on duty right there. We were lucky Scalise was there with a bigger force. Otherwise, we would have had a smaller force.
Right.
And we would have been in real trouble. And this guy's, it would have been a massacre. If we would have had 30 guys on the field and no way to respond, and he's got everybody penned in, right? Senator Rand Paul said he was caged in up against the fence. Everyone's, diving for the 2-foot space in the dugout, so they got some cover. But yeah, it was a potential massacre with no way to respond except for baseball bats. And we're going to have to do something. And, we don't want to say, single us out, make us special. Everyone should be treated the same. And so, as soon as you say we ought to be armed, then people say, well, what about us? Well, no, everybody ought to be able to defend themselves, right? That's a right.
Right.
That's the Second Amendment. It's the right to defend yourself.
But you can't carry a firearm in D.C., right?
Right. No, that's right. And so we're going to have to take a look at all of this and figure out some better solution.
All right. Well, you got to protect yourself. I tell people on the air every time, Michael and I sit in the studio here when I'm not traveling, and we're sitting ducks. And I tell you what, we got firearms. I can guarantee you that, because we have zero defense except of our own volition. So you just don't know when this kind of thing happens. There's too many crazies out there. All right, I got a text here from Jim in Chesapeake. Says, Congressman Brat, AUMF does not exist. The representatives and senators are supposed to either declare war or issue letters of marque or reprisals, according to the Constitution. Can you respond to that?
Yeah, so there is an AUMF outstanding going, over a decade back that they're operating within in some of the countries. But he's absolutely right. It's not sufficient. It's not written. The AUMF is supposed to limit the time frame, limit the territory, limit the use of force, and it's supposed to name all that. And that's why Congress shies away from doing it. But no, he's absolutely right. That's our duty. There's huge executive, right? The Congress has punted our power to the executive on everything, right? So the executive can take, emergency war actions for a month or two, but that's it. And we're way past that on everything here. And so I think this issue will make us step up and have to confront it in public, because we got people back home that know their Constitution, thank goodness. And so teach everyone, because it really does matter.
Okay, your number one objective, Dave, for this week, what is it?
Oh, for this year, it's just tax reform. If we get tax reform through and the economy starts popping like it will, we got a home run. And it is, I'll just tell the audience, right, in terms of education, business is called the supply side, and we're all the demand side. We go and buy stuff, right? Everyone in business is on the supply side. And so our tax cuts are going to incentivize the supply side to be more productive. The only thing that raises wage rates is productivity. Productivity has been flat for 40 years. So guess what wage rates have been? Flat for 40 years. It's the exact same graph. And so on the other side of the aisle, ask your friends on the Democrat side, what are your plans to increase productivity? And you'll get absolute silence. And so that's the same question. What are you doing to increase my wage rates? And the answer is just crickets. And so we have a plan. The Democrats are opposed to it, but ask them what's their counter plan. And they'll say education. And then say, please show me any evidence that throwing even another $1,000 per pupil per year, right, will raise productivity in the business sector. Show me that evidence. And you won't find it, right, in the K-12 system like we have it. And so our side is just excited, right? We're ready to roll, get the economy stimulating. And Trump's already got, right, the stock market going up to record highs just based on the announcement of these tax cuts, on deregulation, everything's starting to move again. Your kid can finally find a job now when they're done with college. And I just scratch my head. I don't get where the political debate is, right? We're providing real solutions. President Trump, the business president, is also doing skills and workforce education for real right now. And so I don't get where the debate is. In terms of productivity, wage growth, job growth, it's all on this side. And That's why the hard left, right, not my Democrat friends in church, the hard is engaged in this terrible sort of politics because they cannot win on the policy issues. They just cannot win. They have no comeback in terms of policy, and so all they're left with is just hardcore politics.
All right, that's going to be the final word. I want to thank Congressman Dr. Dave Brat for being with us, Republican 7th District of Virginia. That's the Central Virginia area. If you want more information, here's all you do. You go to davebrat.com. davebrat.com. Dave, thanks for being with us, man.